If you're looking to upgrade your gear to something, but you don't want to break the bank, I got the perfect budget tent just for you. This is the Featherstone UL Obsidian one-person tent by Featherstone Outdoors. This tent comes in at a total of 3 pounds and 12 ounces. So I know it says UL in the name for the product, but to me it's kind of tipping those scales, and it's not technically ultralight. I feel like ultralight for a one-person tent is 2 pounds and under. I could be wrong. Regardless, this tent is a bang for your buck. It costs $130 with no sale. And for somebody that's either looking to get into backpacking or doesn't have this big explosive budget, this might be the tent you've been looking for. This tent has a pretty competitive peak height at 45 inches tall, as well as something that a lot of tents should also take note on. Again, Featherstone has a win here. A 38.5-inch floor across. It's a giant rectangle. It does not taper. I can't tell you how many tents I have that I'm like, how perfect this tent would be if only it would not taper. But for that reason, this tent has a check on the win list. Something else to take note on is that this tent is semi-freestanding. So the website, it says freestanding, but it is definitely not freestanding. It's got the one ridge pole all the way down the one side, and you have to mandatorily stake out those corners. And you have to kind of maneuver the corner stakeouts to match up with the fly. It took me a little bit of a time to understand that. I'm pretty good about setting up tents, but with a little bit of playing, you can figure it out relatively quickly. This tent material is a 20 denier celled nylon, again, just like the majority of their tents. It's got a really high hydrostatic head, but nylon obviously always gets wet, and it does stretch and it does soak up water more. So if you're going somewhere super wet and it's raining all day and all night, this is gonna kind of suck putting back in per se, but it's still really light, and if you let it dry, that issue is not a big issue at all. You can wipe it down, have a yard sale, and set your tent out in the sun, and hopefully that wind dries it up enough to where it's just enough to be able to put back in your pack without an issue. Okay, looking at the rainfly, we do have one nice vent here. It's not huge, but it's at your head end of the tent, so ideally if you're laying on your back, you're breathing up, and that water and moisture coming out of you is going to go straight through that vent. It also helps that the majority of this tent is a no-seam mesh, so as far as airflow goes, I feel like the mesh being the entirety of most of the tent definitely helps with that condensation issue, especially because you also have a double wall tent, so that already eliminates a lot of condensation in your tent. Okay, going inside the tent, we do have a big overhead pocket behind your head. You can fit a lot of stuff up there, and then we also have a giant, almost like cubby shelf on the top that has 4 separate entrances. So depending on where you are in the tent, it's easier to access that particular item that you're looking for. So I can't stress enough that I believe this tent is perfect for an intro backpacker, as well as someone who doesn't want to spend a ton of money on gear or doesn't have the option to spend a ton of money on gear. $130 for a piece of gear that does the same thing as a competitive tent, like the Big Agnes Tiger Wall, which is basically the same thing as this tent, just a pound lighter. I personally feel like you can't really go wrong with this. If I had to choose between one or the other, and I could keep that extra few $100s that I'd pay for the Big Agnes tent to buy more gear. If I didn't have any, I would personally do that. It all comes down to preference at the end of the day. If I had to choose one thing I could change about this tent, it would honestly be to have similar to a Durston style tent where, I mean, there's 2 entrances to the tent, and I only say that because there is a huge fly on the other side of the tent that has a massive area for vestibule space. I want to say it's almost the same, if not the same, as the front. Therefore, you could have 2 massive doors and 2 entrances and not have all that extra fabric, because I feel like if you want to cut weight down for a tent manufacturer, most of them have a smaller fly on that side, so it's not as big and doesn't take up as much of a footprint on the ground. I feel like that'd be a really smart move to do. I don't know how much that would cost them to do, but I feel like it could be cheaper. I'm not sure. Another feature that Featherstone gives you is that they provide the footprint in the total cost of the tent. They don't charge an extra $50 to $100 for that said footprint. It comes in with the total price. With that being said, they also provide you with the fly first pitch mode with the fly and the footprint. Another feature that normally costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do, and most people get tents for that reason and never actually end up doing it. So the fact that you can get this tent for only $130, have the fly first pitch option, that's a mouthful. And for such a cheap price, like I said, there's really just no losing with this tent. You can have things to nitpick about it, but if you're only paying $130, currently I think it was on sale right now for like $90. I think it might be sold out even, so people are starting to catch on. Oh, also, you can use my code GEARGARDEN, GEARGARDEN, to get a discount on this tent at checkout. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, share the video, and leave me a comment down below if you like this tent and if you're thinking about getting it. See you next week.